Colby, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate having you on, my friend. One of the things that we wanted to kind of ask you about was, you know, you look at this team, they go off to a 5-3-1 start, which is pretty good, right, especially considering the tough schedule they had at the beginning. You get the national perspective, I think, a little bit of what's happening with the Flyers. We know we're in the mud every day with this team, but you have more of a 1,000-foot view. What are you seeing from afar?
Well, it's funny because, you know, I grew up obviously in this area and you know, grew up watching this team every night, and my perspective has since changed. And so now when I turn on ESPN Plus at night, I'm looking for teams that entertain me. And I find the Flyers to be a team that I'm gravitating towards watching. I think there's players that you're curious about. You know, you look at even going back to last year, like how well Travis Sanheim has turned into and what he's developed into and goes to the Four Nations, a guy who they're probably talking about for Team Canada for the Olympics. You've got, you know, always question marks around the goaltending, but it's held up for them. Zegras comes in. You know, Rick Tocchet comes home, a guy who probably could have called his shot anywhere, but this is where he wanted to be. So, you know, I think there's a much different vibe just talking to people and you know, even I was up at the BU Michigan State series, and I spent a good amount of time with Danny and Army, and you know, they had a huge brass up there. John LeClaire was there, Patrick Sharp was there, and you know, even with those guys, you just feel different energy when, you know, between periods, all those guys are kind of standing around each other. All the GMs are up there watching all their prospects, and there's just like a different buzz around the Flyers, and it does feel like this rebuild, or whatever word they're calling it. I know that's probably not the word that's being used internally, but like it's starting to take shape, and you look at their balance sheet and you're like, there's wiggle room for the first time ever, and there's deals that are coming off the books and more wiggle room available. So I think, you know, there's definitely a different energy around the Flyers, just from a perspective of, yeah, I'm not in the market every single day while I live here. I'm not living in the bubble that is local, you know, the local media.
I guess, you know, the big thing that's been coming out now is Trevor Zegras kind of looks like he's back to the guy that Anaheim thought they had, right? Kind of looks like the guy that mostly I would assume the Flyers were really hoping they were going to get, the guy that they coveted for years and they were able to bring to town at what is very clearly an easy, very, very low cost relative to what that trade was. What have you seen so far from Trevor Zegras?
I mean, look, to buy that low on him is great work by Danny Briere and the group that put that whole deal together, because the upside is enormous. He's under team control, so it's not like you got to roll up the bank truck and you know, break the bank for him. And look, I know watching him and seeing, I mean, maybe it was four or five games ago, that play he makes when, you know, he's getting mauled behind the net by two players. Neither of them have a good stick on the play, and he's still able to get his stick on that puck. He gets it out to Sean Couturier, I believe it was, kind of through the slot. Like, he makes plays below the goal line that really only Michkov was making last year probably, and you know, I think he calls a lot of attention to himself because he possesses the puck, and I think that frees up his line mates, and, you know, you get a guy who's lethal on the power play. Look, I think that so far, how could you really complain? And I know there was a lot of people who were upset about what happened last night, and him kind of going into that pile. I think was Achari, I believe it was, and kind of taking that swing at him while he was down. And sure, like, I don't know, Bundy, you're pretty old school in your thoughts. I don't know how you felt about that, but I just thought seeing him fired up with that type of piss and vinegar, while I don't love the play, I still look at it and I go, the guy wants to be involved, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't like a brawl of yesteryear. It was more like a bunch of guys pushing each other.
Yes.
But it was good. I mean, guys are getting involved. Even like Grobenkin got an instigator penalty. The Flyers were pretty happy with that. Like, they're trying to glue the team together. And those are little plays like that help do that. Like Rick Tocchet said today, you know, you can be in a pack or you can be alone, but you're always going to be better when you're in the pack.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, and if you're going to do something like that, I guess he probably didn't realize he was going to get booted out of the game and not available for the shootout.
He wasn't alone.
He wasn't alone. No, even Crosby was out of it too. So.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah,
right?
it was good. No, he did a good job. I mean, I agree with Colby. He's done some good things out there this year, and he's a point-a-game hockey player for the Flyers, and he's been really their most creative guy that they've had since the beginning of the year.
For sure. Colby, you said you were up at the BU Michigan State thing. Obviously, Flyers had some players up there. Just want to get your thoughts on some of the prospects that you saw up there.
I really like Van Sage.
Van
Sage.
Yeah.
You know, I called the game Friday, so it's a little different when you're calling the game. And then Saturday I just stuck around, and my kids and my family came up, and they took in their first game. But he really impressed me. Like, he looked to me of the group to be the man amongst the boys. And I think you watch Martone, and you're like, yeah, that kid's a hockey player. Like, he goes right to the spots. He goes and puts his ass right around the net. You know, the goal that he scored, like, I remember someone looked at me and they're like, oh, that's the easiest goal he'll score all year. But I'm like, no, like, look where he put himself in the highest danger area on the ice. And he took that real estate away from Carter Amico, who's 6'5", right? And so I was impressed with him. I think he'll make the World Junior team. And I think having your prospects playing those in the World Junior tournament is just a big stage. I think it helps those guys along. And again, like, you could see Martone rung one off the crossbar, I think, on the Saturday night game. And, like, you look at that shot and you're like, geez, like, that puck got off his stick in a hurry. And you're like, that's a trait that, you know, not a lot of guys really possess. And I think that both of those guys really stuck out to me. I think with Carter Amico, you know, he hasn't played hockey in a year.
Because of the injury.
And I said that, like, you kind of have to, like, just let him be for a little bit, because you're coming off a broken kneecap. You're 6'7". You know, he's such a big guy, and so you could tell, like, there's something there, because he does make some plays for a guy that size where you're like, wow. But when I talked to the Athletic about it, and they wanted to ask my opinion about it as well, and you know, the prospects after that game, I just kind of said, like, I kind of give him a little bit of a free pass right now, and you know, I kind of looked at the other guys a little bit closer, but definitely was impressed with Van Sage, and it's the first time I've seen Porter Martone up close, like, in person, and, like, it's obvious to me watching him play in a game surrounded by, I think there were 34 draft picks in that game. There was half a dozen first and second round picks, guys that have chances to play. Like, you see why he went where he went. It wasn't like you were searching for him. He stands out, Martone, when he plays.
I have a feeling that he's going to be seeing some time with this organization once the collegiate season is over.
But let me tell you something. I haven't seen a team close to as good as Michigan State. So
he'll be in it for a while.
If they're not playing until, I believe, April 10th, which is the national championship game in Vegas, it'll be because they beat themselves. Because that is the only team that can beat Michigan State right
now. They're that good,
is Michigan State. They are impressive. Michigan's a very good team. Western Michigan, to me, those are the best three teams this year. And that Michigan State team, like, I was like, wow, this is a dominant bunch. They've done a great job of putting that team together.
Awesome. Well, listen, Colby, we loved having you stop by.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Colby.
You know, if
good insight.
do a show in Delaware County, you have to have a Delco kid.
Yeah.
You have to have a Delco kid come on. You guys don't know this, but I covered Colby when he was in high school.
Is that right, huh?
Yeah, Radnor.
Radnor High.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun times. And
that's a while ago.
Super cool to see, like, you guys. I remember. I mean, you guys used to have me on the show. Like, I mean, you've been doing this for what? This show is 10 years old.
8 years.
8
years. Yeah.
And you guys were really the first ones to, you know, show any type of love towards me in this market, and so it's you know, I appreciate you guys having me come by today. I do.
Colby, you're the best. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Colby.
Make
much
sure you
appreciated.
go check him out every morning.
Yeah, every morning
yeah.
on where can people find that at?
Daily Face Off on all their platforms. I'll be sure to say something to piss you off, I'm sure. So come stop by in the morning, 9 to 10 every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Colby
Thanks,
Cohen,
Colby.
All right,
Daily
guys.
Face Off. Thanks for joining us here on Snow the Goalie.